for President Trump. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell wrote a letter to team owners that reads like this: "We believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem."
In just a few hours, President Trump will hit the road to push his new tax reform plan.
People want to see tax cuts, and that's what we're doing.
At least teen fires have ripped through tens of thousands of acres.
17 people dead and at least 200 people missing.
It looks like a bomb went off.
The American people rose up, and now they have reversed their decision, and they are going to allow the video to stand and us to push it forward.
The scandal swirling around Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein has moved from the tabloids to the political pages. Hillary Clinton, she said not a single word for 5 full days.
You are true champions and incredible patriots. You think you're going to be back here next year? I think so, right?
You see, Mike caught by surprise. The show's
Well, normally
You look at a camera when you're on TV.
Hey, everyone.
Right there, too.
It's Wednesday. It's downhill to the weekend, guys.
Woo-hoo.
It's been a short week.
Yeah,
Quick week.
It's been a short week, a bunch of big stories, but quickly, like there's a myriad of stories to cover, especially yesterday, the back and forth with the IQ test, and then the NFL moves forward. There's so much going on today, and we'll see where we go from here.
There is, and the president got a big win when it comes to the anthem protest. We're going to tell you about that in a minute, but first, just a few hours away, President Trump is going to go out to Joint Base Andrews and hit the road to push tax reform. So, what can we expect?
Well, joining us now from Washington, D.C., with all the brand new details, Mr. Griff Jenkins. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Ainsley, Brian and Steve, good morning. The president is heading to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania this afternoon. He seems to like that place. It's his 3rd trip since taking office, and he's going to speak to a crowd of about 1,000 workers at the Air National Guard hangar there. Many of them are going to be truck drivers, a group the president considers to be the lifeblood of our economy because he says literally when the trucks are moving, so too is the economy. He's going to hit personal stories as well of those who stand to benefit most from this tax plan. Here's what the president had to say looking ahead to today's speech. Take a listen.
People want to see tax cuts. They want to see major reductions in their taxes, and they want to see tax reform, and that's what we're doing.
And speaking of personal stories and what these truckers may want to hear today, I actually rode around on the campaign trail last year with a trucker in Pennsylvania named Dave Bales. His main concern at the time was, you might guess it, health care. Take a listen to what Dave cares about.
Now I can't afford to retire because of health care. The health benefits of over $1,500 a month. Your Social Security benefits about $2,000. You know, what are you going to live on, you know?
Dave may be happy to hear the president also this week has not given up on health care. He's planning to use the power of his pen to take action, guys, and sign a measure that would allow Americans to buy health care across state lines, something the president says wouldn't cost the country anything. We'll see and expect to perhaps hear more about that this evening, as well as the president sitting down with our own Sean Hannity. I'm sure this, too, will come up. Guys?
All right. Thanks, Griff. Appreciate it. You know, what could be negative about going across state lines? Making these companies compete with each other, driving prices down. The president said that since day one. What are you going to do? Go to the bat for the insurance company because they don't want competition? I mean, that is not going to be a partisan fight.
Who knew that the president could do that? He had the power. Could have done it the first week and not messed around with Congress.
You know who told him? Rand Paul. Said, give it a shot.
Meanwhile, the commissioner of the NFL is getting on board with the president. Roger Goodell, many people are saying, finally sending a letter to all the owners. I think there are 32 league owners saying he agrees that all of the players need to stand up during the national anthem.
Right. This is according to a letter, a leaked internal memo that wound up in the hands of a reporter who put it on Facebook. And part of the letter says this: like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. It is an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. This comes just a week after he met with the Players Union, and the Players Union says that the group decided the protests had to stop, and the union said that Goodell assured them that they would respect the constitutional rights of each and every member. So while everybody has a freedom of speech to do what they want to do, what does that mean now if he's saying everybody should stand? Are they going to mandate it? Don't know yet.
So far, ratings are down in regular season games for ESPN 17%, and they're off 7% on Monday Night Football year to year. I also think in that letter, if you read the whole thing, he says we're going to talk over the weekend about different things you can do to address what the players say are the issues that's having them kneel or sit during the national anthem. They're not just going to say stand up and we're going to leave you alone. They've been saying all along we're going to put money there, we're going to talk about the programs, and we'll see if we can do something positive.
What is this, Brian, about the talk of maybe losing draft picks if they don't stand up?
Well, I mean, there's something in there's something in the rules, the game day rules, that say if they don't stand, you can be fined and draft picks. But clearly, they haven't enforced that for over a year,
right,
and they're not going to put it now. Newt Gingrich was on with Sean Hannity last night and talked about this cultural battle.
One of the things that is driving the elite media crazy is that Trump has this instinct for taking the side of the American people and taking the side of American history and being willing to stand up to every politically correct nutcake left winger there is. And he's gradually beginning to break through, I think. And it gives him a well of support that's not measurable in traditional terms. I mean, all these leaders, if you go back and collected all the elitists who wrote columns about how wrong it was for Trump to do this, well, the average American looked up and said, no, that's exactly right. And when Dave Winston and his team did their poll and found out that the NFL had collapsed in favor, dramatically, I am sure at that point Roger Goodell suddenly, in a moment of deep patriotism and desire not to go broke,
I don't think
he's going to be with us here in about a half an hour.
I don't think that the 49ers are going to stand. I mean, there's a lot of teams. There's 23 players are now all of a sudden going to stand because they were told to. They haven't stood for over a year.
I read that whole letter that Roger sent out, and nowhere does it say they're going to be what the punishment will be if you don't stand. So I wonder what that will be. He did say also in the letter that's important to point out. They had a committee meeting in September, and he said he heard from a lot of the players. He's listening to their underlying issues, why these are so important to him. He does support all the players. He just says you need to stand during the national anthem.
Ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Brian was talking about how the ratings for Monday Night Football way down, also way down for Sunday football as well. What does that mean? Keep in mind, the NFL makes so much money from TV ratings. If they promise a 10 and they get a 7, what that means is, which is what they got on Monday Night Football, they're going to have a give back or a make good on a future game. And that means the NFL is going to miss a bunch of dough. And then next time an NFL team wants to build a stadium with tax dollars, what are the people of that town going to say? So ultimately, follow the money. And the money looks like it's starting to dry up. So maybe the NFL saw the writing on the wall.
And the players do get a percentage of the revenue. So it's not just the owners getting the money. By the way, huge blowback on Jerry Jones by some commentators. Mike Wilbarn said that this is a plantation mentality. You know, there's an ESPN, there's a big blowback there. So it is, this thing is not over.
Anthem.
Yeah.
It's the national anthem. You know, the team owner, Mike Sullivan, who is the team owner for the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm sorry, he's the head coach. He said, when the president invites us to go to the White House because we won the Stanley Cup, we're not saying no to that. He said, we have kids from 6 different countries on our team, and they're excited about going to meet the president and going to see what the White House looks like.
President was pumped up, too. Here he is.
You are true champions and incredible patriots. Now, with hockey season again underway, I know you're ready to make yet another run at the Cup. The NHL has not seen a three-peat in a generation, but I know you are ready for the challenge. Do you think you're going to be back here next year? I think so, right? I have a feeling. It's called winning. I know the Capitals will be looking for payback.
So there's a team that was invited to the White House, and they happily went. By the way, one of the team owners, a fellow by the name of Ron Burkle, the president said, you know, that guy's a great negotiator. Hey, Ron, why don't you renegotiate NAFTA for me?
He said they've been friends for a long time.
Indeed. All right.
Well,
so
Marsha Blackburn wants to be the next senator from Tennessee, and she thought she'd take out an ad, and she put it on Twitter. Twitter says, no, we're not going to do that. It's a little inflammatory. It gets people upset. Marsha Blackburn says, you got to be kidding me. You're going to get people upset because I have a pro-life stance? So they wouldn't let her air it, and suddenly they had a change of heart and policy.
Right. The part they said they found offensive, she said, I found Planned Parenthood and we stopped the sale of baby body parts. Twitter wanted baby body part sale removed. And yesterday they backtracked.
This was their statement. After reconsidering the ad in the context of the entire message, we believe that there is room to refine our policies around these issues.
Because they let the pro-parenthood philosophy go forward. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn will be joining us live at 8:30 a.m.
She says she believes the Twitter backtracked because the American people spoke up and said, hey, that's not right.
Said we're tired of the elites telling us what we can see, what we can listen to.
That's right.
Really? Somebody who's not elite and not tired, Jillian?
Not tired at all.
Tired.
Never.
Bring it on.
First thing in the morning.
Good morning, guys, and good morning to you at home. We do begin with breaking news, though, on a Fox News alert. At least 17 people are dead, 200 missing, as wildfires burn out of control in California wine country.
My entire neighborhood. I mean, my house survived, my barn burnt, but my neighbors, their houses are gone.
With gusty winds and no rain in the forecast this week, firefighters now facing an uphill battle to contain those flames. Adam Housley is live in California with the latest. He will join us in just a few minutes. Breaking overnight, 2 Navy commanders of the USS John McCain fired after a crash that left 10 sailors dead. That crash ruled preventable. Commander Alfredo Sanchez and Executive Officer Jesse Sanchez were both relieved from their positions for poor leadership and judgment. Back in August, the missile destroyer collided with an oil tanker near Singapore. The Navy also relieved Vice Admiral Joseph Aucoin, the commander of the 7th Fleet, from his duties after. President Trump could soon be just yards away from North Korean soldiers. South Korean media reporting the White House has scouted possible sites for his upcoming trip to Asia, including the 10 demilitarized zone separating South and North Korea. The president also meeting with his top generals just hours before the U.S. military flew Air Force bombers over the Korean peninsula in a drill alongside South Korean planes. And for the first time in nearly 30 years, how about this? The U.S. men's soccer team will not the field for next year's World Cup. It's not a joke, Brian.
Reality setting in like a sledgehammer on the U.S. bench.
The 28th ranked Americans losing to 99th ranked Trinidad 2-1, ending their streak of 7 straight appearances at the Cup. Brian, you're devastated.
Think about
Depression
this. Think about Nike, their investment in Russia. Think about Fox paid for the World Cup rights.
Huge.
And if you don't have an American team, it is
which was ranked 29th.
Initially, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, this isn't happening. There's no way.
Oh boy.
You can't go lose to Mexico and Panama. Oh my goodness.
All right. Thanks, Jillian, for that
disaster.
real pick-me-up.
Could we have some Kleenexes in there?
I'm going.
Please.
I got it.
All right, there you go. That'll be on the blogs.
Meanwhile, we're going to check on Brian. We're going to take a little break to check on Brian. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton finally condemning Harvey Weinstein. But why did it take her so long? And will she give back his cash?
And what does compromise look like to Nancy Pelosi? Republicans bending to the Democrats' wishes. Guess she didn't get the memo. The Democrats lost. Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, firing back this week after the White House released its 70-point immigration plan. The House Minority Leader telling the Washington Post, quote, "There's nothing in it to negotiate because it doesn't have shared values of who we are as Americans right now. We're trying to get Republicans to vote on what we believe." So compromise means voting for the Democrats' ideas, apparently. Is that accurate? Let's get some reaction right now from the White House correspondent for the Washington Examiner, Gabby Morangello. Gabby, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
So what's their strategy exactly?
Well, it looks like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer want Republicans to essentially cave to a party that's no longer in power. And I think the comments that we saw from the House Minority Leader really display almost a stunning lack or sense of entitlement. They want the White House to cave to them. They want the White House and Republicans in Congress to work with Democrats to basically enact the progressive liberal agenda that Pelosi and Schumer have been trying to push through since the days of the Obama administration.
Sure.
And really, that's not the strategy that's going to work here. I mean, what they should be looking to do is emulate the movements and the strategy and the message that we've seen from Democratic senators like Joe Manchin and Heidi Heitkamp and Joe Donnelly up in Indiana, who've been working with the White House on things like tax reform and looking for areas to compromise.
Well, you know, Gabby, to quote a famous American, elections have consequences. And right now, the Democrats are the minority party. We do know that it looked like the president was going to be dealing with Democrats when he had that meeting with Chuck and Nancy, and they came out and they said, okay, we got a deal. The DACA kids are going to be able to stay, and they're going to be more money for security, but no wall. And then when the president and the White House came out with that 70-point plan this past weekend, the big thing was they're going to build the wall, all the money for the wall, and the Democrats simply don't like that. But they don't have much game here because DACA, the Dreamer program, is not a law. It was something simply instituted by the last administration.
Well, I mean, even forget the legality of that for a second. Look at what's happened when Democrats have because of what they've done. They've constantly indulged this far left part of their base, and they've attached themselves to the so-called resistance movement. And what that has done has prevented them from ever compromising with the White House without facing consequences. I mean, if you recall, last month Nancy Pelosi was interrupted during a press conference about DACA a few days after she'd said she'd be willing to work with the administration on immigration reform. She was interrupted by liberal immigrants' rights activists,
right? Because
who said
they
that
didn't
she was
want her.
Anti-immigrant.
Because, Gabby, they didn't want her to work with the Republicans at all.
Right, and that's the consequences of, spending years indulging this progressive liberal base that is demanding just policies that the average American disagrees with.
Well, the meter's running. They have until March the 6th to figure out a compromise or something to do going forward. Gabby Morangello from the Washington Examiner. Gabby, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. It's 6:20 here in New York City now. Our next guest lost her husband, a police officer, at the hands of terrorists. And then she befriended one of them.